Hello, hello. If you are just jumping on with us, I'll give you a chance to log in, make sure that you have subscribed, make sure you like, make sure you do all the things you know you're supposed to do. If you're watching online right now, especially if you're live, I hope that you're going to interact. I hope that you are going to make some posts and some comments. And so we're going to give everybody just a minute to jump on here. We're going to talk. It's Tuesday. It's Tuesday Talks. This is our live stream that we do every single week where we talk about real estate, talk about deals, talk about what's the latest and the greatest. Of course, we got big news in the world of politics, which really doesn't matter what anybody says. Politics do affect the business world, and of course, if they affect the business world, then they affect individuals that are operating, living in that same world. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Not going to get too bogged down, but just want to introduce everybody to Tuesday Talks. It is Tuesday, and we are live Tuesday. We're right on time here, Tuesday, live for Tuesday Talks, and it is Tuesday, January, what is today? 21st, January 21st. So if you're here, let me know where you're watching from, and let me know what's going on with you, and just giving everybody here a chance to jump on. I'm going to jump right into it here because we've all got stuff to do, and I hope that these Tuesday Talks are valuable to you guys and not going to bog you down. So I've got my notes here in front of me today because I got a ton of stuff to talk to you guys about. So as we already mentioned yesterday, January 20th was the inauguration of the second term of Donald Trump for President of the United States of America. I personally, I've let people know, and not that it really matters, but I've let people know where I stand on it. Not really super political, but definitely pro-America. That's, I don't see any reason why to be anything other than that. If I lived in China, I'd probably be pro-China. If I lived in Mexico, I'd probably be pro-Mexican, right? So I was born and raised in America. I think this country is the greatest country in the world. I have some biblical perspectives that demand, for me personally, demand that I am favorable toward the nation of Israel. That's a different discussion for a different day, different Tuesday talk. But as far as this country is concerned, that I live in, that my children are being raised in, and as that I have to operate in, administer in, pretty much do everything that I do, I'm pro America. So I'm excited about what happened yesterday. At least I'm hopeful, but I'm definitely not. I'm not unrealistic, and I'm also not of the mindset that we should just completely dismiss other people because of their political perspectives. I hope that that's not the case. So as everybody's jumping on here, I want to talk a little bit today about what does the real estate landscape look like now being post-election, post-inauguration, maybe we can call it the Trump era. So I want to just, acknowledge we've got people that are coming back on. So I want to see you, where you're coming from, where you're watching from. I see Marisol says hello from Hillsboro, Oregon. God be glorified. Amen. Gloria a Dios. Hermana, good to see you. And we also have some other people that are joining right now. So if you're just jumping on with us, let us know where you're watching from. Let us know who you are so we can all connect here in the chat. And then also, if you're new, if this is your first time, maybe just raise your hand and wave at us. We want to make sure that we see all the new people. But we love having people ask questions. So if you have a question, maybe if anybody has a question right off the bat that they want to post, I'd love to get to your question. We got Misty watching from Richfield. Thank you, Misty. If you have any questions, guys, gals, this is the time to go ahead and post them in the chat. And if I have time, I'm going to bring it up onto the screen and we'll answer your questions. If you guys have something that you want to share recently, something that's exciting, maybe it's a win, then let us know. And then I'm going to be talking a little bit about the post-election, post-inauguration landscape for real estate today. So if you have any predictions, I'd love to hear from you. What are your predictions? What do you think the future looks like as far as real estate is concerned? I'm serious. Like right now, go ahead and post in the chat. Let me know what you think things are going to look like going into the future as we talk about, coming out of the last 4 years of Well, frankly, we saw a lot of inflation. We saw interest rates go through the roof. And a lot of people, their wallets were hurting because jobs were not keeping up with necessarily demand of rising costs of goods. So a lot of people probably excited about, in some way, shape, or form, what's going to happen in the next 4 years in an overall look. Now, I know there's going to be people that have some really strong political point of view that they think basically we're going to go back to the Stone Age. I personally don't think that's going to happen. Am I biased? Probably, but the fact of the matter is usually, and this actually works on both sides, although it was really hard to argue against, with the last administration. But I was going to say, usually there's an emphasis, an overemphasis of the flaws or the negative aspects of the political candidate that we don't necessarily relate to, right? So everybody knows that, Joe Biden, got picked on. Of course, Trump is going to get picked on. But what are your personal views about the future of real estate? What do you think is going to happen? Do you think interest rates are going to go down? Do you think they're going to go up? As you guys are jumping on, I want to give you guys a chance to chime in on that. And I want to get right into it here. So a couple of things that I thought were pretty interesting. I got my notes here in front of me, so forgive me if I'm looking down a little bit. But this was an interesting thing. I saw an article in U.S. News under the real estate section of U.S. News, a World Report. And it actually, there's a really cool article here. It's the 2025 through 2029 5-year housing market predictions. So if you guys have seen this, then you probably know a little bit about what this article is saying. But in a nutshell, it says that sales of existing homes, so not new homes, but existing homes, is going to grow. So sales are going to go up as buyers start to get used to the idea of, well, this is just the way it is, right? The mortgage rates are this way, the prices are higher. But if there is now here's the thing. Obviously, everything takes a little while. So remember, think about it like this. If you okay, here's what Kevin says. Unless the current president replaces the people in charge of the Federal Reserve Bank, the interest rates will not greatly change. I tend to agree with Kevin. And I also am a little bit skeptical about how much control any president has with the Federal Reserve Bank. So that's a different topic for a different time. But I actually tend to agree with Kevin's assessment here that I do not think that the interest rates are going to change greatly. And so that takes me back to the article here, U.S. News market prediction for housing is that the fact of the matter is that people are starting to just kind of get used to the idea that interest rates are high, prices are high. And so if we want to move, if we want to buy, we're just going to have to go ahead and bite the bullet. By the way, someone remind me, if I don't mention it, if you guys are going to watch all the way through, someone remind me a story about a deal that I currently have in California, and I want to tell about a text that I got just this morning, but I want to work it in later. So someone remind me. Here's the thing: if interest rates go down, so I don't think we're going to see a hike in interest rates. I think that'd be really, really hard for them to pull off. But if interest rates kind of just, flatline, they don't really move, up much, but they also don't drop. We're at that point now where people are probably like, okay, this is just the way it's going to be. Let's go out and buy. Let's just make it work, right? If you really like, those little powdered donuts in the gas station, which I'm telling on myself, years ago I used to stop as a contractor. You're getting a lot of gas station food, so I'd stop in, grab a bag of, little chocolate covered donuts. And these things are probably terrible for you. It's probably like mostly plastic, but I'd go in there and grab a bag of those and, just kind of munch on them all day in the truck while I'm driving around and working. They fit really nice down in the tool bags. So in your tool pouch, you could actually take that bag and put them down there and always have a snack handy. So, but if I like buying those and then the price went from like $5 a bag for the whole bag of donuts to, let's say, $8 a bag, there's probably, at least that first day I walk back in the store after the prices go up, I'm just like, what in the world? I just bought these for $5 yesterday. Are you kidding me? And I walk out, right? And I might come back in and might be like, nah, I'm not doing that. No way. Well, if I like donuts bad enough, and if I like them enough to where it's like, man, I'd really like one of those right now, then maybe after a couple of weeks, I might be like, you know what, whatever, here's your $8, and I grumble out, munching on my donuts. It's kind of the same concept, right? So when the interest rates went up in 2022 and housing suddenly became not what it was in 2021. In 2021, you could get a loan if you qualified, right? You could get interest rates that were almost next to nothing, and it was a really, really good time to be buying. So if you were used to that and then suddenly everything changed, then man, you'd be upset. People were griping. Buyers begin to pull back, right? And as a result, we saw a lot of markets they've been going up, 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 and they kind of flatlined. So that being the case, we all understand, why that happened. But the fact of the matter is that interest rates pretty much they've kind of hovered. They come down a little bit, but they haven't come down a lot. And it's probably about that time period where people are going to start buying again because they need to, because they want to, and they can afford it. And there's going to be some people that start buying. So I actually agree with this article. I think we're going to see that buyers are going to go out. They're going to start making purchases again. But here's the key. Okay, so check this out. If interest rates drop again, especially if they drop significantly enough to make a real impact, you're going to see a massive, massive demand for housing. So I think what's going to happen is interest rates are going to flatline, kind of hang out, and people are going to start buying again. So in other words, we're going to start seeing some activity no matter what. But watch out if interest rates drop, because if they did, and I tend to agree with Kevin, not necessarily a lot of hope that we're going to see the Federal Reserve drop rates, but if they did, President Trump is known as a wheeler and dealer, right? He finds a way to make stuff happen. So if he works something out to boost his ratings and to really deliver on some of the things he's talked about, and he actually works out a deal with the Federal Reserve and they drop interest rates, boy, you're going to see an explosion because it's been super stagnant, right? People have been waiting. You're going to see, mortgage lenders are going to be everybody's new best buddy. They're going to be swamped. And it's going to be interesting to watch what happens here in the next couple of weeks. So I don't know what you feel about that or not. Kevin says that he doesn't think that the rates are going to really change unless there's a replacement of people in charge. Again, I tend to agree with him. But what happens, if they do drop the rates a little bit, even if it's just like, hey, a temporary thing, just to kind of create a little bit of activity. So that's pretty interesting. The other thing I wanted to talk about, bring attention to, is this: that Realtor.com. If you are on there a lot of you guys are investors. You're on Realtor.com pretty much every day. You're on Redfin. You're on Zillow.com. Realtor.com is projecting an 11.7% increase in housing inventory. Okay, so let's talk about that. What does that mean? If housing inventory increases, then that means that there's actually going to be more houses sitting out there or more houses available, right? So on the one hand, you might have this surge, or you might have a little bit of a climb in people buying because of the fact that they're either A, realizing that interest rates aren't going down and we're just going to have to, bite the bullet and do it. Or B, you might have an actual drop in interest rates and a whole bunch of people go out there and you start seeing like a feeding frenzy. Now, either way, what Realtor.com is anticipating is that there's actually going to be an increase in housing inventory, which tells me a couple of different things. But one, it tells me there's going to be more houses going on the market because of a variety of reasons. People can't afford them. People are just looking to downsize, get into something a little more accommodating. And so I think you're actually going to see more houses coming on the market. And I don't know about you, but everywhere I look, I'm seeing more signs available, houses. I see price cuts. I'm seeing a lot of that stuff. Are you guys seeing that? By the way, if you've been seeing that, make a comment in the chat. I'd love to hear from you. Are you guys seeing more inventory? Are you seeing more available or new price? I'm seeing a lot of price adjustments in the neighborhoods that I drive around in between Portland and Boise, Idaho, and kind of everywhere in between. So that's kind of an interesting projection. What that means is there's not going to be as much inventory selling, so the inventory is going to continue to expand. The idea is that if that happens and it seems to be trending that way, then you actually have a pretty good chance of some prices coming down. So that would be good from a buyer's point of view, and I think it's definitely acknowledged that we are currently in a buyer's market, right? So, out of curiosity, someone make a post here. Let me just see. I want to hear from some of you guys. Why? What are some of the reasons why its buyers are actually in the driver's seat right now in today's current market? I'd love to hear that. So who's saying, hey, you know what? The prices. I'm actually a buyer, and I'm thinking things are looking pretty good for me right now. Gus says there's nothing going for asking price here. So maybe Gus can give us a little clarification. Do you mean they're getting above asking price, because that was definitely happening not too long ago, or does that mean that people are not getting what they're asking, in the sense they're getting kind of below asking offers? I'd like to hear back from Gus on that. Make a comment there. The point is that we're definitely okay. So Gus says everything's going for below what the sellers want. Exactly. So that's the same exact thing I'm seeing. I have a couple of people might be watching right now, but a couple of people in the PDXREI group that are constantly, some of you guys, by the way, I want to say good job. Some of you guys are out there really hustling. You're looking at stuff all over the place. So I have one in particular that is bringing me a lot of leads. Okay. So bringing me leads, we're looking at stuff all the time. But what I had to tell her a couple of days ago is I said, listen, you have to understand, like, the asking price, even if it's a good deal or even if it's priced to sell, there's no way we're giving them asking price on any of the stuff that we're looking to buy and improve and then put back on market. In fact, we're having to figure, as a buyer, you're having to figure, if I buy today, I've got to buy today for what tomorrow's prices could be, and tomorrow's prices could go down. So just like Kevin says here, prices in East Idaho are dropping, but only by 2,500 to 10,000 increments. That's probably a safe range. But of course, from an investor's point of view, we've got to factor in. I heard Jamil Damji say not too long ago that he's factoring in a 20% below what they think the ARV could be. What is ARV? Somebody make a comment in the chat. What is ARV? Let's help some of the other people that are on here learn a little bit about this. What does ARV mean? Somebody help us out. So Jamil Damji says when they're buying right now, of course, he's the nation's largest wholesaler. If you guys don't know that, Astro Flipping and Keegley. Kevin says ARV means after repaired value. That's right. Kevin Smith gets a prize. A lot of good comments in here. Appreciate you for saying that, Kevin, and being involved. But the ARV is the after repaired value. So after we buy the house, we put all the money into it, fixing it up, and then get it back on market. Misty chimes in here, after repair value. That's exactly right. So ARV, let's just say that if I buy a house, if a house is going to be worth $500,000, then we're not going to go out and pay $500,000 or even $490,000. We're looking to purchase it at a significantly reduced purchase price. Typically going to be, I know people will argue this number, but typically in the Portland area, Portland, Boise, some of the kind of more popular or populous Northwest markets, would typically say is 70% of the ARV is what you want to shoot for. So if you're going at 70% of ARV, let me just switch over here real quickly, see if we can, that's not going to work. I have to do that later. I was going to say, maybe I could show you guys how this maths out, but 70% of ARV, then minus your repairs, that kind of gives you what we call our MAO, our maximum allowable offer. So if it's worth $500,000 when it's finished, and by the way, how do we determine if it's worth $500,000 when it's finished? Someone help me out here in the chat. How do we determine that? What does $500,000 house look like? How do we know that it's going to be worth $500,000 when it's done? We take that number. Anybody have any suggestions? How do we determine what the ARV is going to be on a property that we're looking at possibly purchasing? Somebody give us okay, so there you go. Shawnee says comps, exactly right. So we have our comparables, right? We have our comps. So if I say, okay, the house is worth $500,000 when it's done, and I know that because I can go on Zillow, I can go on Redfin, I can go on any one of these free real estate data aggregators, and I can look at literally recently sold properties in the last 6 months. By the way, don't go back a year, don't go back 2 years. If you can, try to pull those comps from even 3 months ago because the market has shifted that much. But if you say, okay, 3 months ago, 6 months ago, these houses, right here within this little area, I'll give you, for instance, I have somebody reach out to me a couple weeks ago. Then they just reached out to me again last night, said, hey, and they said, I was asking 550. Now they're asking $450,000 for, took $100,000 reduction on a property that they are offering on a creative finance structure. So they're like, hey, I own the house. I'll let you basically take over my loan, but I want, $80,000 down. And then they were asking 450. Now, when they first contacted me, get this, they've been asking 550. Okay. They literally texted me out of the blue because I was like, hey, that's not going to work for me. Good luck. They texted me again last night, said, hey, we'll take $100,000 off at 450. Okay, well, I said, well, that's a pretty significant, reduction. So I get out, my thing, doing my comps, and I'm looking at my comps and my comparable sales in the last 3 months, the last really everything is in the last 3 months. All of my comparables for a similar 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,600 square foot house, within, preferably within a half mile, maybe a mile of that property. Arturo says comps within a half mile. Okay. Agreed. If you can get comps within a half mile, even better. But I'm looking at kind of like, okay, I'll put it out to a mile. Everything that I saw, the highest price for any sale for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in that particular area was $380,000. And I had several comps that have all sold in the 300 to 350 range. So here's a guy who was asking 550, and believe me when I say this, 2-3 years ago he might have got it, especially offering a creative finance. But now the market has shifted. So he comes back and says, well, I'll let it go for 450. Well, I'm looking at it going, even at 450, man, you're still way out of range for what the comps show today. Okay, so let's just say we use that example. If I was going to say, and I know it's a bad example because that house is pretty much move-in ready, but the guy still wants 80,000 down. He wants payments for a couple of years, and then he wants a payoff of the 450, which is too high for me. So let's just go back to our example. We talked about what if a house is worth 500,000? We've got comparable sales to show that. Okay, and then we use our number as an investor. We got to make sure we're getting this at the right price. We use our investor figure and we say, okay, 70% of that 500, that gives us $350,000. Okay. Now, a few minutes ago, I said some people might take, a little bit of, they might not like that 70%. I'm using 70% because in general, in the Northwest or anywhere along the West Coast, and particularly the bigger cities, it's going to be really hard to find someone to agree to sell for less than that 70%, minus repairs. But I use that. If I have to adjust, I still use the 70%, and then I take my repairs back. So let's just say we have $50,000 worth of repairs, and we subtract that from our 70%. So we take away the 50,000. Well, now we've got our 300,000 as a general rule. That 300,000 would be what we call our MAO, our maximum allowable offer. Okay. So we have 500,000 is what we think it'll sell for, minus the repairs, minus 30%. So we're going to go 70% of what we think it'll be worth in its finished repair. 70% minus the cost of repairs. In our example here, we're using 50,000. And then now we have a maximum allowable offer of $300,000. This is typical if you're going to do a cash deal. Well, here's what Jamil was. I've been talking for a long time to make this point. Jamil Damji, the nation's largest wholesaler, Keegley, out of Arizona. I'm a part of their mentorship group, and they give a lot of updates regularly. And he just came out a couple weeks ago and said they're taking an additional. Now listen to this. They're taking an additional 20% off of that, what their normal maximum allowable offer would be. They're taking an additional 20% because he says, we don't know what the actual ARV. Remember, what is ARV? Misty says this. Kevin gives us this. Our ARV is our after repair value, saying because the market is so kind of wonky right now, because we don't know what's going to happen with interest rates, because we don't know what's going to happen with the Fed. And Kevin says one of these guys, his term is up in May 2026. Okay, so there's a good chance that maybe some good things happening, but the point is, we don't, as investors, know for sure what's going to happen in the future. So we want to be really, really careful about the offers we're making. And Jamil, the nation's largest wholesaler, is saying they're taking 20% off of even what their normal numbers are. So in our hypothetical situation here, $240,000 would be the cash offer, maximum allowable cash offer. By the way, does that make sense? Is this helpful? If you guys are getting value from this, could I, give me a thumbs up, or say, yes, we get it. Give me some kind of understanding, like, okay, we get this, right? Because sometimes I'm up here talking and I don't realize that maybe somebody already lost you guys a long time ago. So if that makes sense, hit me up with it makes sense. Give me a thumbs up. And that actually helps me segue into our next. Yeah, thank you, Daniel. Daniel's got 3 thumbs up. So that's 1, 2, and then he's borrowing someone else. 3 thumbs up. Thank you guys. Okay, cool. So you guys are still here. You're connecting. What does all this have to do with anything? Why did I run through all the example? Because I'm trying to tell you, if you're an investor and you're making cash offers right now, and Shawnee, I know you're on here right now. I can see you. She's one of the folks I was talking about. She's really out there. She's hustling. She's getting leads. She's calling agents. She's doing an awesome job. But I was telling Shawnee, we got to make sure that our offers are factoring in what might happen in a negative way over the next 6 to 8 months. If you're buying properties to flip right now, you've really got to be very careful. I was actually going to pull up an article here. See if I can find it. I was talking specifically about flips, and I'm telling you this from my personal experience, but even in the real estate, chatter, in real estate investors world, rather, the chatter is that you want to be very, very careful on flips right now. So flips are always, what is a flip? Flip is where you buy at a low price, you improve the property, you give it some kind of value add, and then you flip the property back onto the market. So if you're doing flips right now, be very, very careful. It's still a profitable option. I mean, who wouldn't like to make $30,000 over the course of 6 months in additional income? You spread that out over 6 months, that's $5,000 a month. That's better money than a lot of people make at their W-2 a job, right? So I'm not saying that flips aren't profitable right now. Don't get me wrong. But what I'm saying is that you have to be very, very careful that if you, as a wholesaler or as a flipper, if you put a cash offer on the table for somebody, you want to make sure that you almost feel a little bit bad about putting that in writing and submitting it. I've heard people say, and I don't necessarily subscribe to this theory, but I've heard people say that you should feel a little bit embarrassed every time you make a cash offer. How many of you guys know who Ty the Flipman Taylor is? Raise your hand or tell me if you ever heard of Ty the Flipman Taylor. Ty is back, I believe he's back in North Carolina or Georgia or something like that, maybe in the Atlanta market. Ty the Flipman Taylor, he's kind of an OG in this space. And he always talked about, he just does cash offer, and then he just makes these pretty low ball offers. And he says, you want to feel a little bit embarrassed when you put this offer out there. I don't necessarily think that that's, the best way to do it. I don't personally subscribe to that. But the fact of the matter is that if you were to make an offer in that format, you were to actually do that, you'd probably be safe if they say yes to your offer, right? And so, of course, a lot of people can't do that. Let's just say we had somebody in our scenario that has a $500,000 house, and then they're in a kind of a bad way, whatever reason they need to sell it, and you go out and you make this $240,000 cash offer. Okay, even if they wanted to sell it, a lot of people have what's one of the main reasons why a lot of people cannot sell. I want to hear from the people that are on right now. What's one of the main reasons why a lot of people cannot accept a low, like 50% range of the finished ARV? Why can't people take an offer like that a lot of times. Why can't people take a cash offer? Just somebody put it in the chat. Somebody post it in the comments. What's the one major reason why a lot of people cannot take a low cash offer from an investor? Andy says no equity. That's a yep, upside down. Okay, these are some good reasons. Tyler says low equity. That's right. So you got a lot of properties out there that don't have equity, and somebody, yes, okay, this is what I was looking for, because it's lower than the debt that they owe. So let's just say we have that $500,000 property, and we take a 70% minus the cost of repairs. In our scenario, it's $50,000. And then we make our maximum allowable offer after even taking another 20% off of that. And that's our cash offer. We can get you this cash guaranteed 14 to 30 days. You're going to have money in the bank. And you put that offer out there. Now, if you do that, then you have to understand that a lot of people, even if they want to sell, they can't, because they usually have a mortgage. And that's kind of what I was looking at, is the mortgage. It does not allow them to take that type of an offer, right? So if you have a mortgage, if you're paying a loan on a bank note that is, say, $330,000, and someone comes along and offers you $240,000, even if you just want to be done with it, you want to move out, I'm done, I just got to get out of here. Hey, a $240,000 cash offer doesn't do me a lick of good if I owe the bank $330,000 still. You see what I'm saying? So that's why. And most of you understand that, but I'm just saying, for some of you that are new to this, that's why a lot of people, listen, there's a ton of different videos out there and YouTube channels, all kinds of stuff that teaches on how to do real estate stuff using ARV, minus this, minus that. That's your MAO, your maximum allowable offer. That's great knowledge to know. And by the way, you should just have that. That should be super fundamental. But that doesn't really actually do you any good if you're making offers on properties that don't have enough equity in them. Equity being the difference between what is owed on the property and what the value of the property is. You know, what if it's worth $500,000 and you owe $330,000, well, then it's, you know, you've got somewhere in that range of about $170,000 of equity. But if they owe $330,000 and you make an offer as an investor at $240,000, because you're like, I got to buy this, I got to pay interest on my money I borrowed to make this purchase, I've got to do the repairs. We're figuring on $50,000, but it almost always comes in at $70,000. You know, if you're playing it safe and being a good, smart investor, pretty good chance that you're not going to be able to get them to accept that cash offer. It just doesn't make sense for them, which is why this is talking about market conditions and looking into the future. This is one of the main reasons why you guys have seen a huge surge in the idea of creative financing. Meaning now we're seeing a whole bunch of people, and including people in the investment world, that are making offers that are kind of a hybrid, right? So in other words, if I don't have to come up with all of the money to pay off that $330,000 loan for you as a seller, and you'll let me kind of take over your loan, and then I can give you a little bit of cash to allow me to come into your position, that sometimes is a really good solution for a seller. Okay, so think about this. Say you're that seller that, you know, for whatever reason, what are the main reasons why people sell to real estate investors? Some of you guys are out there, you've been doing this. Somebody give me some of the ideas on why are some of the main reasons why someone who has a house that could be worth $500,000 if it was just fixed up a little bit. Why would someone like that sell their $500,000 property to an investor? Come on, let me get some chatter over here. I want to see what you guys are, what are some of the main reasons. There's three reasons. They're usually referred to as the three big D's. Okay, but some of you guys know, why would someone do that? What are the reasons why people actually will willingly sell their house for significantly less than what they owe on it, or than what it's worth? I'm not seeing anything come in yet, so I'll just go ahead and give you guys what I say. So you have death, you have disease, and you have divorce. Those are three things. Missy's got their divorce. So the three Ds are some of your primary reasons why people sell at a significantly discounted rate, okay? And so death, this would be where someone passes away. Maybe it was unexpected, and now there's a mortgage payment that has to be made. So they're like, we just got to get this thing sold, and whatever we can get out of it is what we're going to be okay with. So death is a reason. Other times, a lot of people that, the cancer and all the stuff, post, COVID world, a lot of people have a lot of interesting ailments. People are getting sick. They need to move closer to family. They need to move where into maybe an assisted living. There's a lot of the 3Ds, and it's horrible. But this is why. Listen, if you're new here and if you're just watching in, you're like, I don't understand all this real estate investing stuff. Isn't this a bad time to be buying a house? By the way, who can tell me when is the absolute best time to buy a house? When's the best time to buy a property? When's the best time to get involved in real estate? Somebody tell me. What is the ideal best time to get involved in real estate? I'll finish off my coffee before it gets cold. I'm waiting for somebody to comment here. What's the ideal, absolute best time? Nailed it. Andy and Misty came in with a solid answer here. Yesterday. That's exactly right. No, actually, Kevin says 5 years ago. Okay. Okay. Touche, Kevin. So the absolute best time to buy real estate was 5 years ago. It was yesterday, right? But Tyler has a great answer too. The next best time is today, right? Anytime is a good time to buy real estate if you're getting the property at a fair enough price to know, okay, I'm going to be able to make money on this one way or another. Now, I want to just pause real quick and give a quick little, disclaimer statement. A lot of you are involved in real estate because you're looking to try to build some kind of cash flow. And I would go out on a limb here. I'm going to do this because on personal experience, I can say from my personal experience, buying and holding real estate using the standard model of buy a house. Some of you have heard of the BRRRR method. If you know what the BRRRR method stands for, post it in the comments so other people can see it. People are trying to learn as we do this, right? But the BRRRR method is you buy and then you put a renter in it and you refinance it. You get your money back plus a little bit of money. Okay, the reason why that model doesn't really work super well for a lot of people that are trying to generate cash flow is because by the time you have a mortgage in place and you service that debt, so you pay the mortgage, and if you're going to do it right as a landlord, as a typical traditional investor that's holding on to real estate, you're going to be putting a little bit of money aside for when you have vacancies. So you have money that from when you had it occupied, you're putting that money into a slush fund so you can make payments in between renters. The traditional model of buying real estate and holding on to it and trying to generate income off of the rental money that comes in, that model is really, really hard to scale when it comes to scaling high enough to actually make a living. So Kevin's got the BRRRR method. Buy, right? That's the first thing. You buy it, then you rehab it, then you rent it out. Now that you have an occupant there and you can show income on the property, you refinance it, you pull all your money back, or at least as much as you can, and then you repeat that process. So that's commonly referred to as the BRRRR method. You can see why there. Buy, rent, refi, repeat. Thank you, Kevin. Okay. The reason why that doesn't work for a lot of people, especially in the current market that we're talking about and that we've been in for the last couple of years, and that we don't really see a lot of indications it's going to change much. The reason why that doesn't work that great is because of the fact that after you service that debt, say you have that property and you've got about let's just say an $1,800 a month payment, but you've got a renter in there that's paying you $2,000 a month, right? Okay, that's $200 a month. No, it's not. Remember, you have to pay a management company. You also have to pay for little maintenance stuff that comes up. One water heater disaster can wipe out an entire year's worth, 2 years worth, easily 2 years worth of profit if your margin is only $200 a month on a property. So when we talk about real estate investing, it's really, really important to understand that the best way to generate cash flow is not going to be from buying and holding properties. I know a lot of you want to buy, you have these ideas of holding a property and being kind of someone who owns property. And I would just say, if you examine why that is important to you, and you actually find out that the reason it's really important to you to own real estate is because you need to make money on a month-to-month basis, then you need to forget for at least 3 years, probably 5 years. You need to just completely forget about owning real estate that you hold on to and make money off of. Okay. And I'm trying to tell you this because I tried to do it the way that you guys were talking about several years ago when I first got started in this. I was like, man, I want to own real estate. Listen, I owned a duplex in Forest Grove. I owned a duplex in Hillsboro. I owned a 12-unit apartment complex in Hillsboro. I was the owner on title of these properties. And what I found out is that you can buy them and you can hold them and you can even have them keeping up with themselves on the month income. But you have to have several of those types of properties all operating very, very well, maximum efficiency, maximum management, low turnover, low vacancies, low problems to really, really generate a good monthly income off of those properties. I'll say this: the best one that I had, that when I saw this in firsthand, was when I owned the 12-unit complex. Unfortunately for me, at the time, I didn't understand real estate enough to know how I could have kept that property. So I knew I had a time period I had to get it done, get it back on the market, and get it sold. And I worked out a deal with the sellers where they actually basically deeded the property to me. I managed the entire thing. I made the payments based on the tenants that they had, but I was like moving tenants around like, just it was just shuffling everybody all the time. I'd shuffle somebody over here and I'd get in and fix their unit, then put them back, but we'd raise the rents. And when I saw that, I saw those checks coming in every single month, like, clockwork pretty regularly. I was like, oh, they got about a $6,000 a month payment on this property, but they're generating anywhere from $11,000 to $12,000 a month in rent. That was when my eyes were like, oh, okay, this is why people own multifamily real estate. So, but at the time I didn't understand. I couldn't, if I could take it back, right? Coulda, woulda, shoulda, didn't. But if I could go back, I would definitely figure out a way to work out a deal with those sellers to where I kept I kept that property, I kept that loan in place, and then I just paid them out their equity above what they owed. So different understanding now, right? Because I've been in the right rooms, I've been around the right people, I've learned a lot of things, and so now I would do things differently. But as a general rule, this is what I'm trying to say. As a general rule, you're not going to generate a lot of good cash flow revenue off of little margins that come from a single family rental. And so I say all that to say, this is why a lot of people are working on making creative offers where you kind of create a hybrid situation where the seller gets some of the money they need, maybe all of it right now, maybe some of it now, some of it later, maybe some of it on a month-to-month basis. And then you put that contract together, and then you go and you sell that contract to an investor, right? You sell that contract to another flipper. And so wholesaling, as a general rule, is going to be one of the safest, most affordable ways to get into real estate without using a lot of your own money. And there's a lot of ways to do that. Now, I'm talking about things in a really general term right now. We're looking at the 40,000 foot view. So if this is helpful, then give me a thumbs up. If you're like, John, we know all this stuff, that's fine too. I get it. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because we're moving into a market where we don't really know what's going to happen. We do know this: there is a constant demand nationwide for affordable housing. Okay, which leads me to say that there is a shift among people that actually are holding on to real estate. There's a shift happening to where a lot of properties are moving toward a particular type of or model that is working very, very well in some markets. And the concept is actually not new. It's an old concept, but it is a very tried and true method of holding real estate, generating income, and even holding on to it and generating large amounts of revenue off the one single property. And that's something that we're going to talk about probably at this coming month's meetup. We're going to talk a little bit about that for sure at my proximity event coming up in February 20th and 21st. So a month from yesterday and today, we're doing the proximity event in Portland. I see a couple of you that are already signed up and coming. So I know Tyler's coming. I'm not sure if Misty, I don't know if you were coming or not, but I know Andy's coming for sure. The point is, this is not a pitch. This is just saying there's a whole bunch of stuff that we could talk about. And I'm super excited to talk about that to those of you that are in the room, because it is absolutely a game changer for if you currently own properties or if you're looking to get into owning real estate. Some of the methods that are coming out right now that are very, very effective, and they actually just make a lot of sense. It's not a trend. It's actually a pattern that's been seen and noticed and is now being cultivated in certain properties. I'm actually personally looking to do this on one of my properties there in Hillsboro. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to walk through one of my properties and do a full walkthrough with everybody that comes to the proximity event. And we're going to show you guys how this is actually going to work in one of my personal properties. So just to recap today, I can't believe we're coming up on 45 minutes already. The market has definitely shifted into a kind of more neutral or more flat position over the last 4 years. What's going to happen in the future? Nobody actually knows. Even the people that pull the strings and and make those calls, I don't think that they actually know. But there's enough indicators in place to point us in a certain direction that I believe we're going to see an increased interest from buyers. They're going to start buying, right? Even if it's at a higher interest rate. But that's almost positive for sure. If there's some things that happen and shuffle around with the Federal Reserve, with management, with if some kind of new bill comes out, it's a short-term injection into the economy, and suddenly rates go down enough to where people jump in and they start buying again, then we could see a huge demand, a massive surge in property selling, which of course always bumps the prices up a little bit. But the idea is this: if you want to get good at real estate, if you want to actually make a living in real estate, you have to be prepared to make adjustments to what's actually happening in the market. And I'll kind of just wind up with saying this: adjustments in the real estate market, they happen, okay? And of course they happen. You all know that. But that reminds me, one of you guys were supposed to remind me to tell the story, okay? But I'll just tell the story real quickly. I have a property that came in through one of my lead sources in California. So I do nationwide marketing. A lot of it's organic, some of it's paid, but a lot of it's just organic. I've had my website out there long enough. I get leads. Okay. So I've had this lead that I made an offer on. It was a subject to offer, meaning we're going to leave the loan in place. I was going to pay the sellers. I believe it was going to be $3,000 to just move out and walk away. And the property was about 2.5 years old, 3 years old. So I had pictures from the Zillow listing when it was first built. Now, this is a double wide manufactured home sitting on a big 2-acre lot, completely fenced in, just about 90 minutes northeast of LA. And so I negotiated with the sellers. We sent over a contract. They signed it. And one of the contingencies was that when I purchased this, I need to, obviously the property needs to be in condition that that you said it was. Well, what they told me was that it was livable. Plus they were living in it. So I was like, okay, it can't be that bad, right? I got the pictures right here on Zillow from when they bought it 2 years ago. Now, folks, how many of you know that some people's idea of not that bad is very different from other people's ideas? What is clean to some people is absolutely horrible to other people. So we sent a cleaner out. We hadn't actually closed on this yet. They moved because they had this say, we're in motion. We're going to do this. They'd signed the contract. They moved out, moved back east somewhere. And we lined up to have our cleaner go out and clean it. We did some marketing. We actually had a few interested parties. We're going to do a lease option sale on this, which I don't have time to go into today, but effectively we're going to give someone the opportunity to purchase this at a future date if they put a deposit down today. And that deposit obviously covers what I have to pay to the seller, and it covers my costs. And then it gives me a little bit of money today. I get a little bit of money each month, and then I get a chunk of money on the back end if they decide to purchase. It's called a lease option. Well, I sent the cleaners out, and we got the cleaners out there on site, and they called us immediately, this place is not what you guys said it was. We're like, well, I mean, okay, how bad is it? Well, they start sending us pictures and videos. These folks had at least, I think they had to have at least 3 dogs in this house. They must have been big dogs. There's paw prints all the way up the wall. The walls are trash. The carpet is totally thrashed. I mean, dogs clearly scratching the carpet to shreds. There's vinyl plank flooring, or actually it was more like the kind of the really cheap low grade, because they had put this in because they wanted to cover the vinyl floors that came with the manufactured home. So they put in what do they call that? It's when I haven't used it for so long. I'm losing it. Somebody help me out with what is that flooring called? It's the original click together flooring. It's not vinyl plank because it's not vinyl. It's a composite type of material. Anyway, somebody will post it. Point is, when that stuff gets wet, it tends to swell up. And so there's clear big puddles of dog pee laminate. Thank you, Andy. Yeah, I should have known Andy would have it. He's a handyman. He does a lot of repairs and construction there in the Portland, Vancouver area. Thanks, Andy. So that laminate flooring is all swollen up and terrible. John says Pergo. Yeah, that's a brand name of laminate. But yeah, you guys get it. So there's the flooring is swollen. There's big puddles where the dog just peed and it just stood there. I mean, the house reeks, according to the cleaners. The place is a total wreck, right? Has to be repainted, has to have floors taken care of, has to have new carpet installed. Tons of trash, left the fridge there just packed full of stuff. And they had shut the power off because they were moving out. So it's all rotted. I mean, just nasty, right? Just absolutely nasty. Literally just lived like pigs eventually, effectively, and then just walked away. And they were like, yeah, it's pretty much like it was in the pictures. And so I'm like, I had to call them last night. By the way, I recorded this call. If you guys are interested, I might put that together on a private link and just drop it into you. But I recorded this call and I was like, listen, this is an awkward conversation for both of us, but frankly, you didn't leave the property the way that you told me you were going to be leaving it. He's like, well, what do you mean? It's like, it's in bad shape, man. And so I said, I'm calling you because, we're scheduled to close on this. I'm supposed to be giving you money here any day. And we've had to put everything on pause because frankly, this place is a wreck. He's like, well, I didn't think it was that bad. And I said, well, forgive me. I said, probably my standards are just higher than yours. And I apologize. I'm not trying to make you feel bad, but I'm just saying based on my standards and also based on what's in the contract, you have to leave the property in this kind of condition. You haven't. And I said, so I'm calling you to find out what you want to do. Would you like to cancel this contract? Because I cannot perform on this contract that I told you I could in its current condition. And he's like, well, and he kind of hems and haws and talks. And he said, well, what do you think I should do? And I said, well, I can't tell you what you should do. I could tell you what I would do if I were in your shoes. But this is just me. I said, I would either fly back to California and get out there with, a friend or a neighbor or a relative and get the thing all cleaned up, trash it all out. I would hire a local handyman to get in there and paint. I would probably have somebody come in there, a flooring guy, and just put in new floors. And then it would be, in good enough condition to where you could either sell it. I said, the issue is the purchase price that we agreed at, if you remember, is for basically what you owe on the property, because there's not enough equity in this. And there's other comps. Remember, we talked about comps. There's other recent sales in your area that are actually less than what you currently owe on this property. So I said, the only way I can even purchase this is to do it the way that we talked about. And I can't afford to pay you any money. I can just take over your payments and start making them, assuming the property is in the kind of condition that we need it to be in. And he's like, oh man. So back and forth. So I said, listen, I'm not trying to pressure you. I don't want you to feel badly. I'm just telling you where we're at right now. And you guys can talk about it. Let me know. I'm fine with it either way. Just let me know. Because I try to do things super low pressure. So here's where we're at. This is what I mean when I say the market has shifted. I got a text this morning from the seller. Says, the best option for us seems to be to get you the needed money for your contractors to do their jobs and to clean it. And then we would continue the handoff as previously discussed. My wife and I are doing some digging to try to secure some funds. If that's an acceptable option to you, I'll let you know what our progress is. Somebody tell me what just happened. I really want to know. Like, can you guys understand what just happened? What the sellers just said effectively. Excuse me. I'll give you guys a chance. Somebody tell me what the sellers just said and what it looks like is going to happen on this transaction. Wait for those comments to come in, but the way I see it, I was just offered to be paid for someone to sell their house to me. Now, think about that. A couple of years ago, people were overpaying, buyers were overpaying just to be able to get into a house, right? Arturo says he's willing to pay to have it fixed. That's right. Now, what he said was he's going to give me the money to go do the work that I told him it needs to get done. I already told him, I said, my costs, like if you go out and hire a contractor, it's going to be more for you, but my costs to get this done is $12,000, probably $12,500 if I, figure it all in. So he's literally saying, I'm going to find money to give you to have you do it so that we can close and I can just get this off my hands. What I'm trying to tell you guys is the market has shifted. What was happening 3 years ago, even 2 years ago, is not happening today. What does that mean? The market has changed. What does that mean for you and I? That means you cannot be going off of YouTube videos and instructions and courses that you purchased or that you found from 3 years ago, from 5 years ago. For sure, if it's over 2 or 3 years old, it's pretty much obsolete information. You have to be keeping up with current information. That's why it's so important to be getting on these calls. It's why it's so important to be getting into the monthly meetups that we do. That's why I've been offering this proximity event in Portland next month, 2 days of intensive training in the room with people that are actually doing it and know what's going on in the market. We're going to talk about what didn't work and what is working and what we're doing. And so we're trying to make that available. But I'm telling you guys, whether you get in the room with me, or whether you get in the room with somebody else, you absolutely have to be adjusting your thinking and adjusting how you're doing things, because you cannot continue to do things the way that it was done, even just, in a sense, yesterday. You got to stay current. You got to be, if you guys were at the last meetup, somebody if is at the last meetup, post in the comments, success has a need for what? While I'm waiting on that, Kevin says, would it be worth your time if he gives you 12.5 when he still owes more than the comps? I don't know if I quite understanding the question, but I think what Kevin's saying is, would I still close on the deal if he gives me the 12,000? Okay, I see what you're saying. So you're saying even if he does give you the 12,500 to fix it up, if it's more than the comps are showing, then what's the point of even buying it? Well, again, this is a creative deal. So if I can buy it and just literally, when I say buy it, I mean take possession and take ownership of it and just start making a monthly payment on his current note. We do know, because the market shifts, right? Real estate changes. Things happen all the time. Eventually, that property that is right now, it's eventually going to come back up and it's going to go back up. So I'm not buying these types of properties for today's value. I'm buying these types of properties for tomorrow's value. Really, what I do is I'm always looking like 5 years down the road. What's this property going to likely be worth? In 5 years, for sure, it's going to have equity in it. It's almost guaranteed. Okay. So the answer is yes, I will absolutely purchase this property and just put a renter in there or put a lease option buyer in there to start making monthly payments if he gives me the money I need to make it worth it, right? So the idea is you guys have to be available to a shift. You have to be adjusted. And then Shawnee here, she got it. She was at the last meetup. Success has a need for speed. You have to be able to respond quickly, to move quickly. And if you guys are not working with other people that can help you, give you that guidance, to give you that clarity of thought, then while you're sitting there trying to analyze a deal, someone else is already making money on it. And that's just, or someone else has already said, nope, that's not a deal. We're moving on to something that is. So as far as I'm concerned, navigating the post-election, inauguration real estate landscape, as long as you are adaptive to different techniques and as long as you're aware of what's going on in the market, I personally think it's still a great time to be involved in real estate. It's still a great time. I'm making offers pretty much every day on properties, for sure, several offers a week. But I'm being very, very careful on the offers I make, especially if it's a cash offer. I'm going to be making it pretty much around 50% of what today's ARV is, after repair value, because I know for a fact that the market could shift even a little bit worse before it gets better. I don't want to be stuck with a property that I have to put on the market in 3 months when the market is really taking a shift because it's still kind of grinding its way out of where it's been. So if you guys understand this, give me a thumbs up. If you got value out of this, comment value, or say thank you. I've taught our kids, listen, it doesn't matter if you think you need to or not, just say thank you, right? Because it's just a good practice to get into. So say thanks, not for me, but for your sakes, because that's you taking action. You're getting involved. I appreciate you guys. If you are interested in the proximity event, please let me know. You can shoot me a DM. I believe we have 3 seats left. We're keeping it super small group. I think we've got it maxed out at 16 people. And I believe that we're already at 13 people who've purchased tickets. So if you're interested in that, let me know. But guys, get out there, keep looking at keep looking at properties, keep making offers. Just make sure you're giving yourself a little bit of room. There's Tess. Tess is going to be coming out to the proximity event. I'm looking forward to that. It's funny because Tess, I'm right here in Eagle as I'm broadcasting this. Eagle. She's in Boise, and we're going to be meeting in person next month, most likely in Portland, if we don't meet sooner than that. So thank you guys. Shaq, there's another one coming to proximity. He's purchased his ticket. I'm excited to meet you guys and be in the room in that proximity and talk about some of these things. But I'm excited about this year. I think it's a good year. I think it's always a good year when we've got God on our side and when we're on the Lord's side. But that's just my views coming out and what I acknowledge from the Bible. So I'm excited about that. But I wanted to tell you guys this. Do not be afraid of what's going on in the market. You have to get out there and learn. You have to get your feet wet. Just try to do it with people or around other people that are for sure, at least aware of what's going on. John, good to see you too, brother. Look forward to seeing you again next month. Guys, appreciate you. Share this, subscribe, do all those things that we do whenever we're on these types of spaces, and look forward to seeing you guys. God bless. Take care.